Namaskar and welcome to Diplomatic Dispatch, the show that keeps you updated on India's foreign relations and what's happening around the world. I'm your host, Vikas Swarup. Prime Minister Modi has just completed an important visit to Europe, with stops in Berlin, Paris and Copenhagen. In Denmark, apart from having a bilateral summit with Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, Prime Minister Modi also met leaders of the 4 other Nordic countries who had gathered for the second India-NORDIC Summit, and that will be the focus of our episode tonight. The Nordic 5 comprise the 3 Scandinavian kingdoms, Sweden, Norway and Denmark, along with Finland on the east and Iceland on the west. These countries collectively represent an economy of more than $1.6 trillion with a population of just above 27 million, allowing for a very high standard of living. The Nordic countries rank in the top 10 in the UN's Human Development Index, with Norway in fact at the number 1 position, and in the World Happiness Index, where Finland ranks first. They are also leaders in innovation, clean technology, renewable energy and sustainability. India's partnership with Nordic countries rests on the shared values of democracy, open societies and rule of law. Our trade with the Nordic 5 is also on the upswing, expected to touch $6.5 billion in 2021-22. If we include trade and services, the total bilateral trade with the Nordic region is $13 billion. The cumulative FDI received from Nordic countries in the last 20 years is $3.341 billion. There are close to 150 Indian companies having presence in the Nordic region and more than 700 Nordic companies present in India, from Sweden's IKEA to Finland's Nokia to Norway's Statkraft, which is Europe's largest generator of renewable energy, to Denmark's shipping giant Maersk, to Iceland's global leader in orthopedics, Ashok. The world's largest pension fund, Norway's government pension fund Global, with assets of $1.4 trillion, has also invested almost $16 billion in India. The first India-NORDIC Summit was held in Stockholm, Sweden in April 2018, which set in place an ambitious agenda for cooperation on issues related to global security, economic growth, innovation and climate change. The second India-NORDIC Summit in Copenhagen focused on key issues related to international peace and security, including the conflict in Ukraine, multilateral cooperation, green transition and climate change, the blue economy, innovation and digitalization. Significantly, all the Nordic countries reiterated their support for India's permanent membership of a reformed and expanded Security Council. To discuss the summit in greater detail and our bilateral partnerships with the Nordic countries, I am joined by 3 exceptional guests. With me in the studio is Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, a veteran diplomat who served as India's ambassador to Kazakhstan, Sweden and Latvia, and is currently president of the Institute of Global Studies in New Delhi. And joining us via video link from Copenhagen and Helsinki respectively are His Excellency Freddy, Svane, the ambassador of Denmark to India, and Her Excellency Ritva Koukku Ronde, Finland's ambassador to India. A very warm welcome to all 3 distinguished guests. Let me start with you, Ambassador Sajjanhar.
Sure.
How do you assess the second India-NORDIC Summit?
Thank you very much, Vikas, for having me on your show. I assess it very positively. I think it's been a huge success. I think if we look at it, India is the only other country with which the Nordic countries have such a summit-level engagement. The only other country is the United States, so just about 2 countries. Now, in the second summit, in which all the 5 leaders were present, there were a number of areas, number of important segments in which decisions have been taken, whether it is digitalization, whether it is blue economy, because these countries, all the 5 Nordic countries, have enormous strengths and niche technologies as far as innovation is concerned, green technology is concerned, clean technology is concerned, climate change is concerned. And so it is a win-win partnership for all of them. The last point possibly I could make here is that these countries have huge GDP, 1.6, $1.8 trillion, only 27 million people. So the market is very small. So they are looking at reliable partners. They are looking at strong partners. And that India, with its economy of $9 trillion in purchasing power parity, also 7.4% GDP growth, the highest, the fastest growing economy even after the pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war, which has had implications. So they are looking also to come to India.
Ambassador Svane, India and Denmark have a Green Strategic Partnership launched in September 2020. What makes this such a unique partnership, and how did Prime Minister Modi's visit advance it?
Thank you very much, Vikas, and good to see my colleague Ritva and Ashok out in Delhi. The Green Strategic Partnership is mainly built on one very simple concept: to connect with the missions of the Indian government, whether it's with water, energy, and so forth, and what kind of skills Denmark can bring to India. So it's really to tap into the vision of New India and secure that whatever you are doing in India to advance your society will connect with that. So it's a connect between missions and our skills. The bilateral meeting we had in Copenhagen really advanced it. Now we are moving from, let's say, nice statements. We have an action plan. And I think now we are really developing our relationship into a center of excellence for green growth. We are also, I think, bringing in the private sector because they have to move. So our partnership is also a first of its kind green unicorn.
Excellent. Ambassador Koukku, Ronde, India-Finland collaboration is increasing in areas like clean energy, artificial intelligence, 5G, 6G, quantum computing, and cybersecurity. Tell us some of the concrete ways in which this is making an impact on the ground.
First of all, thank you very much, Vikas, inviting me to your show. And dear colleagues, good to see you also. And greetings from cool Helsinki also. It's great to be here. And indeed, I share that the Nordic meeting and our bilateral meetings with Prime Minister Modi, they were very successful. And the atmosphere was very warm, very concrete in some of the areas, and really we agreed in all of the areas we were discussing, and that was really a very good opportunity to check the notes and look where we are heading to. It happens to be that we have two partnerships with India. We had a very good virtual meeting between our two prime ministers last year, and from last year we have been really trying to concretize jointly with our academy, our institutions, and also with our companies and private sector. And we have concentrated on two areas: sustainability partnership and digital partnership. And actually third is strengthening the cooperation in the field of science, technology, and education.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, now trade between India and the Nordic countries has been going up, but it is still well below potential. What more can be done to boost bilateral trade ties?
Meetings like these, what we had just now, in which the leaders are also able to communicate. There are the business people also, because we had CEOs discussion in Copenhagen amongst the Indian and the Danish CEOs. Maybe there is need for much greater interaction because we have the instruments available, but since there is so much of information in the available, but it is really does not percolate down. So maybe in the first aspect, what I would like to mention is in terms of lessening the information gap, the information divide that exists. And in that context, I think whether it is visits of delegations, ministerial level delegations, business delegations, traveling between the two countries, for instance, even in the area of mobility, migration, we have signed this agreement. I think if there is a greater exchange in terms of even what the Prime Minister said when he was addressing the Indian community, that each individual should get five
yes.
known Indians to come to India. And I think vice versa, there needs to be much greater exchange at people-to-people level in terms of tourism, in terms of delegations, in terms of ministerial senior official visits. And so there would be a much greater comfort level between the two sides, because as has been mentioned by both Ambassador Freddy Svane and Ambassador Ritva, that there are niche technologies, but and in all these areas, whether it is sustainability, whether it is climate change, innovation, but we really need to water management. All these are aspects which India needs. So if there is greater interaction, we'll be able to get them into our system.
Now, innovation was an important area of discussion during the India-NORDIC Summit. All the Nordic countries are leaders in innovation, and India now has the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. So what are the Nordic countries and India doing together to promote innovation?
All see India as a future accelerator. You will be the catalyst in the future. During the pandemic, you have rolled out a backbone of digitization, which is second to none. I mean, you will not find any other part of the world, any other country with that complexity that India has, where you have really rolled out and utilized your digital skills. For the Nordic countries, including Denmark, of course, we are very, very keen on moving, let's say, kind of inclusive systems. We are very focused on sustainability, but we also want to secure that's human-centric. There are a lot of the Nordic countries, including Denmark, we're looking into how can we, to some extent, tame these tech giants. They know everything about me. They know everything about Ritva. They know everything about each and every in the world. And there we have really to secure that digitization is used in a proper but also human-centric way. So it's not just a marketplace for collecting data on all of us and sell it. So in that context, I think the Nordics, as well as India, we could set global standards.
Ambassador Svane mentioned environmental sustainability. And of course, green energy should also be included as the centerpiece of collaboration between India and the Nordic countries. What were some of the concrete outcomes of the second India-Nordic Summit in this area?
I think clearly there was a common understanding that the future is carbon neutral. First of all, India has made very ambitious commitments in Glasgow, which we all agreed, of course, very strongly. We have 3 out of 5 Nordic countries are the members of the European Union, and actually the rest 2 countries are very attached to the European Union with special agreements. So we have also in the European Union very ambitious climate targets. And Finland, my own country, has even more ambitious targets. Namely, we are going to be carbon neutral by 2035. And therefore, I think yesterday we again saw how rich possibilities we have between the Nordic and India, enabling green, clean, smart, for instance, energy and sustainability there. Also including circular economy, that of course everybody understands that due to the recent security situation in Europe, it has global impact, and the fact is that the dependency on fossil energy forms is, of course, everybody wants to go even quicker to the more renewable energy forms. And we are having here really good solutions.
Arctic issues also figured quite strongly in the discussions at the summit, and both sides saw opportunities for increased cooperation on polar research, for instance. All the Nordic countries are members of the Arctic Council, of which India has been an observer since 2013. So why is the Arctic so important to India?
Arctic is very important, I would say, not only to India, but to the whole world. You know, you mentioned about the Arctic Council. all five Nordic states are members of the Arctic Council. There are only three other members, Russia, Canada, and the United States. So I think the majority in terms of presence is of the Nordic countries. But the whole world has an interest in that, because in the Arctic Council, if you see, there are 13 observers, and there are other associate members also. India has been an observer since 2013. And what India has said is, and what is reflected in our statement also, that the Nordics and India would work together as far as polar research is concerned, climate is concerned, sustainability is concerned. So I think these are important aspects. But to be specific and very quickly, one is in terms of, because this is an unknown area so far, it's a very virgin area so far. And how it can protect the climate of the world, I think so it has to be handled in a very sustainable manner. So as far as our research is concerned, Indian research is concerned, what is the impact? We came out with our Arctic policy, draft Arctic policy very recently. What is the impact on our monsoons? What is the impact of what is happening there on the Himalayas, on the glaciers and the snows in the Himalayas? In addition to that, this area is supposed to be extremely rich and have huge deposits and supplies of minerals, of fossil fuels, of gas, of energy. Now, if they have to be exploited, they should be done in a sustainable manner. It should not be like it's a Wild West mad rush there. The other aspect, of course, is also that there is what is known as the Northern Sea Route, because this area is always ice-bound for much of the year except summers. But I think many countries, and particularly we have seen from China, because China also became an observer here, and China has been sending its icebreakers and trying to, even during winter months, use that Northern Sea Route. Now, we really need, all of us, the whole world needs to get together to preserve the ecology of this place. The other aspect is India is definitely keen that there should be no militarization of this area. And that is also a challenge. The last point I would like to mention here, Vikas, is, China has been trying to project itself as a near Arctic state. There is no such concept of a near Arctic state. And we have seen how China, in its assertiveness, its belligerence, its expansionism in its own area. So the presence of China here needs to be handled with great care.
Ambassador Svane, Prime Minister Modi's visit to Europe took place at a time when Europe is facing its biggest ground war since the Second World War. The Nordic world, which shares frontiers with Russia over land as well as in the waters of the Arctic, feels this impact of the war probably more closely than many others. Tell us, what is the Nordic perspective on the war in Ukraine?
Thank you very much, Vikas. Yes, it's a war. It's an unprovoked aggression upon Ukraine, and the Nordics are standing fully aligned also with the European Union and the rest of the Western world. So we are condemning this aggression and so forth. We had a very, very detailed, very candid discussion with our Indian friends, both bilaterally but also in the Nordic context. And I think the outcome, without going into all the details, I think the outcome of it was that we need to develop new alternatives. So the Nordic Indian cooperation will produce very tangible and very speedy alternatives, whether it's within energy and other areas of dependencies. We have to move forward. And the good thing here is that we all are subscribing to international rules, international laws, multilateralism, but also, let's say, the democracy. And as your program is always highlighting, democracy matters. And democracy will matter a lot in this context and in the aftermath of whatever we'll see when the hostilities are over.
It has been reported that Sweden and Finland might end their long-standing neutral status and join NATO. How has the war in Ukraine altered Finland's security calculus? And is there a real possibility of your country joining NATO?
Of course, Russia's war in Ukraine has fundamentally changed the European security environment. And we have been currently, after 24th of February, We have currently really assessing the consequences. And we have a very, very lively discussion about the security and foreign policy situation in our northern part of Europe, and also particularly in Finland. We are sharing the border with Russia, which is 1,340 kilometers. And this border is EU Schengen border. And it is something which, of course, we have always wanted, and it has been quiet until today. But it is a serious assessment. Our government was giving to the parliament a couple of weeks ago an assessment on the changed security situation, and parliamentary committees are at the moment discussing. Our Prime Minister, Marin, she yesterday even repeated, but she has been saying that we will make some decisions in a few weeks' time, not in a few months' time, so very soon. It is most probable that Finland will apply, but we will see it. The population now, more than 60% of Finns, according to the all recent opinion polls, are in favor of Finland joining the NATO.
Madam Ambassador, the second Nordic summit witnessed the extraordinary spectacle of 4 women leaders with Prime Minister Modi. It is indeed a fortuitous configuration that the current Prime Ministers of Iceland, Finland, Denmark and Sweden are all women. Tell our viewers, how have women been able to make such huge strides in politics in the Nordic countries?
This is, of course, my favorite subject. I noticed, I was calculating how many women was in the room in general, and it was more or less 50-50 when you come. But it is, I could say that it is, short answer is, it is, of course, the capabilities that parties tend to choose party leader who is at that moment the most capable one. Of course, and then they are looking also at who is most capable to win the elections. So we seem to have, at the moment, very capable prime ministers and very capable politicians, because the parties are in Finland. All the 5 parties in the government are having actually women political leaders. But this is a long story, of course, and it comes back to the equality in the Nordic countries. It comes back to the high social security in our countries, the quality of life, the education, which is giving equal opportunities. In Finland, we happen to have free school, we have free meals, we have really organized in all Nordic countries also maternity or paternal leaves, which are paid. So women are not losing their jobs if they are getting children. We have a very good kindergarten system in which is really doesn't cost practically anything. We have created circumstances in our societies that everybody can work. And when you mentioned about the population growth, we have actually this tendency that we need all the brains in our development. So therefore, women are taking also part in the workforce. Finland happened to be the first country in the world where we were granting for women voting right and eligibility as well. So it meant that actually from early on, women were in the parliament, and therefore we were able to have that sort of legislative procedures also, which were giving the equality at that moment. So there is, nobody is perfect, but we are pretty good already on the path. And not to mention in diplomacy, Finland is a country where we have 50% women ambassadors and more than 50% women are. We have more than 50% our diplomats are women.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, your final thoughts on why the partnership between India and the Nordic 5 is important for both sides.
I think, Vikas, this is a partnership whose time has come, really. And I am so very happy that, the first summit took place. At that time, it was said, it was thought by some that maybe this is a one-off event and, it will not be followed up. The leaders see great value as far as this format is concerned. So I would imagine that both for India as well as for the Nordics, the third summit should also be coming soon because they see value in this. Why it is important is because it is a mutual win-win proposition. For India, we are looking for technology, we are looking for investments, huge investments, we are looking for areas like clean energy, clean technology, green energy, sustainability, blue economy, climate change, innovation. All these are niche areas in which the Nordic countries excel. And of course, as far as the Nordics are concerned, India presents a huge market, India presents a huge demographic dividend, and also I think they have been, the Nordics and the rest of Europe, has so far been quite comfortable with dealing with China as far as, you know, in a different silo as far as the political human rights issues are concerned, and an entirely different silo as far as economic and investment relations are concerned. But I think the recent developments post-pandemic, the weaponization of the supply chains by China, that has upended all this.
I'm afraid we have run out of time. Thank you very much to all three of my guests for sharing their thoughts with our viewers. There is no doubt that Prime Minister's visit to Denmark and the second India-Nordic Summit has helped consolidate India's ties with a vital region of the world. It has advanced India's partnerships with the Nordic countries on a range of issues, from technological innovation to sustainable development. Thank you for watching Diplomatic Dispatch. Till we meet again next week, good night and goodbye.